It's officially summer now, and it's time for another gardening update. Everything's growing well, and we're starting to harvest a few summer crops. Okra loves the heat, and our okra is starting to form little flower buds. It won't be long until this okra keeps us pretty busy just picking. Over next to the fence, the long beans that I planted late are starting to climb the string trellis now. Right next to those, I planted some Malabar spinach and some cucumbers that will also start to climb soon. Looking at the petunia tower I made, I think I should have planted the red ones just a little bit higher. We have a few sunflowers that are starting to open up now, and we really love seeing the pollinators on those. If it looked like something was missing in the opening clip, that's because we harvested the garlic. If you've never grown garlic before and want to know more about how to grow it, I did a video on that, and I'll put a link down below. I usually plant our garlic in October and harvest in June. The cloves that I planted last October were bought from the grocery store. I usually cure our garlic by letting it dry in a shady location. This tomato we have in a grow bag is called Rowia Pepper. This is one I'm liking so far. It's called Sleeping Lady. Of the dwarf tomatoes, the kookaburra cackle has the most tomatoes on it so far. And it's still setting on, which is a pretty great thing in the heat. Just beyond the kookaburra cackle is another Rowia Pepper. Tasmanian chocolate is one that did well for us last year, and it looks like it's going to do well this year. Here's a Boronia, which was our favorite tomato from last year. It even has a couple of smaller tomatoes near the top. Our other Boronia actually has a tomato that's showing some color, so it won't be long. We usually feel blessed if we can get a ripe tomato before the 4th of July, and I think we're going to do it this year. Maralenga is another dwarf variety that we're growing in a grow bag. This is another one that we've never grown before. We're growing lemon ice in a grow bag also, and it has quite a few tomatoes on it. Here's a look at my hand for a size comparison. This one even has a few small ones near the top. Over next to the storm shelter, we have another sleeping lady that is doing great, even though I neglect these plants over by the storm shelter quite a bit. We also have another kookaburra cackle that has a few tomatoes on it. August and September are usually our best months for peppers, but this year we're getting started a little early. We already harvested a few peppers off of this plant, and it was time to harvest a few more. Buena Mulata starts out purple, then it fades, and after that it starts turning into shades of orange and red. Oda has always been a very dependable pepper for us, and it was time to pick a couple of these also. This is a pretty typical size for Oda peppers, but they do sometimes get larger. When fully ripe, they turn red. The Ahi Rico still has a lot of peppers on it, but no ripe ones yet. By harvesting peppers, you can encourage the plant to produce more. So I went ahead and harvested a few of these Albino Bullnose peppers. The larger one is pretty typical for what you can expect from Albino Bullnose. Lesia is off to a good start, and they turn red when ripe. We grew these last year, and they were really good. The Chinese 5-color pepper has one color pretty well covered now. Even though Mega Gold did great for us last year, it doesn't have a single pepper on it yet. Right next to it against the fence, we have a volunteer sunflower that's getting ready to bloom. Along the fence next to the volunteer sunflower, I planted some of our own seeds. These were planted quite a bit later, so that will spread out the blooming time. We're growing 6 different types of carrots this year, and I hope to do a taste test soon. Even though carrots normally produce seeds in their second year, some varieties sometimes flower the first year. Here's what a carrot flower looks like when it's in bloom. If you've never tried to save seeds from a carrot and would like to know how, I did a video on that, and I'll put a link down below. I don't think it'll be that much longer before I have a Sugar Rush cream that is ready to try. Jimmy Nardella was productive for us last year, but I think this year it's even going to do better. It probably won't be long before we start harvesting a few from this plant after they've turned red. The Cubanelle has so many peppers on it that I thought I'd harvest a few just to give the plant a break. I'm hoping to do some sort of a taste testing video on some peppers soon. I'm thinking these peppers will probably get quite a bit larger later in the season. The F3 Black Pearl hybrid is finally starting to get a few blooms. The Rowia Pepper has quite a few near the ground, but isn't setting on too well near the top. The Blot Pepper also wasn't setting on, so I harvested the 2 peppers that were on it. They were both very good size and were starting to get a hint of color. The beans are growing very well and producing lots of blooms. Some of them are well over 6 feet tall and approaching 8 feet tall. I'm a little disappointed in our cucumbers this year, but they're finally starting to climb the cage a little bit. Those orange hat micro tomatoes that we put in the stackable pots are starting to set tomatoes now. Along with the Oda pepper that we have out in the garden, we also have a few in containers. The ornamental peppers that we have in the grow bag are doing pretty well and are starting to produce quite a few little peppers. We have New Mex Easter, Explosive Ember, and our little F2 Purple Flash hybrid. While we're on the subject of the F2 Purple Flash hybrid, let's go look at a couple of its siblings. Here are a couple of plants that are a lot different than the one in the grow bag. One has dark green foliage with little dark colored peppers and purple blooms. Then the other one has dark foliage and little round peppers. It looks more like a black pearl than anything related to a purple flash. Then we have a couple more plants that came from the same batch of seeds. They look even more different yet. They have light green foliage with white blooms and little purple peppers. One plant has more variegation in the leaves than the other. The one with more variegation has green peppers so far, and the other one has little purple peppers, and some of those have some striping. The eggplants are growing very well, but not a whole lot of eggplant fruit yet. We do have one that's gaining size on the Toyo that we'll be able to enjoy very soon. Back against the fence, behind the beans, is where we have the melon cage. And they're just starting to climb the cage well, and I think they'll take off really well from this point on. Right next to that cage, we have another sunflower that's opening. The beetroot is still looking good, but they're not quite ready to harvest yet. The insects are still feasting on the amaranth. Here's a look at one of the little pigweed flea beetles that's doing the damage. They are relentless. The hybrid corn that I'm working with is starting to tassel now and is getting pretty tall. Even though the tassels are coming out, we see no signs of any ears yet, but those will be following very soon. Those will come out right where the leaf meets the stem. I've noticed that on some of the hybrid corn there's some faint striping like one of the parents, the japonica corn. I'm going to cross the hybrid corn back to the japonica corn on a few plants, and I'll do that by removing the tassels on the japonica corn. That way, the only plant that will be producing pollen will be the hybrid corn. Here's a false Japanese beetle on one of the leaves, and these do a lot of damage to our flowers this time of year. Here's a look at the fennel and the bananas from a different angle than we normally look at them. And there's the bat house on the side of the garage. And we have no bats yet. The turmeric seems to like it over by the bananas, but I'm not so sure about the ginger yet. It seems to be growing, but not thriving. The dwarf Orinoco banana is also not growing all that well, but the Musa velutina are starting to take off a little bit. And the Musa bastiu are as tall as the shed. The sweet potatoes that I planted around the edge of the garden are growing well in some places, but not so well in others. But by the end of the summer, it'll be a thick mat of vegetation from one end of the garden to the other. The jigsaw pepper looks pretty good, with one half of the plant having a lot of variegation and the other half of the plant not so much. The F3 Black Pearl hybrids are showing a lot of variation, but I haven't found one that's a keeper yet. This has some attractive peppers, but they're pointed up, unlike my favorite from last year. Here's a quick look at our 1 day's pepper harvest recently. This is better than we usually do in June. The orioles are starting to return to the feeders after taking a short break to raise their young. I really could use the help, so don't forget to like this video and share it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. We'll see you next time.